Hello everyone, I'm John Martinez, and today we'll be talking about some techniques and information to help improve how you boom a scene. We'll start with some basic techniques and move on to some more advanced information and pro tips that will take your booming to the next level. So, what is the job of a boom up? Well, it's to get the microphone as close as possible to the actor's mouth to capture whatever dialogue they're saying without getting in the shot. And that includes your body, the pole itself, or even any shadows you may be casting on the actor or on the walls behind them. And you also want to make sure that the microphone is pointed at their mouth rather than, say, in front of it. There are three main techniques that you can use to boom a scene. You can go overhead, like this. You can go in the rib cage, or you can undersling it like this. You can also use the top of your head to support some of the weight, but I don't recommend it because it reduces your mobility, and if you're just using one hand, you risk the pole sliding off your head and hitting the actor. And you may see some people recommend holding the pole behind your neck like this, but this is bad advice for a lot of reasons, mostly because it's bad for your neck. Which brings me to a really important thing to remember. Booming is hard on the body. Really, any position on a film crew is hard on the body. Along with the Steadicam operator, though, the boom operator is one of the few people that actually has to support weight away from the body during every take. And when you're dealing with a 20-foot pole, a microphone, wind protection, and possibly a transmitter at the end, it can get really heavy really fast. Don't believe me? Get a boom pole and go outside. Extend it out as far as you can and hold it above you with your arms slightly bent for just 5 minutes. Maybe it's easy, maybe you're already feeling a bit of strain. Now imagine doing that while moving on a windy day and for a 10-minute take. Oh, and it's also a 12-hour day, so you have to do that a lot throughout the day. You get the point, it gets heavy really fast. So do whatever you can to avoid expending any more energy than you absolutely have to. That's why my preferred technique is to keep my elbows tucked in like this. It supports the weight here in the core and in the biceps rather than having to support it with the shoulders. On that note, there are a few things that you can do to avoid having to keep your arms over your head for extended periods. First, follow the angle of the camera's field of view. What does that mean? Well, the area the camera can see expands outward in a triangle, with the narrowest point being at the lens. So if you stay near the camera, you can keep your arms lower and angle the pole up to stay right on the edge of frame. If you boom from the side like this, the top of the frame is the same height where you're standing as it is where the mic is, so you'll have to hold your end of the pole higher to keep it out of frame. If you're in a situation where you're going to have to hold the pole higher, try and move your body higher instead of your arms. Use an apple box, step ladder, or even the terrain to get your body as high as possible to avoid straining your shoulders. And make sure you're properly balancing the load as well. It's a lot easier to hold a 10-foot pole like this than it is to hold an 8-foot pole away from the body like this. Use your front arm to support the weight of the microphone and the pole, and use the back arm to keep it from tilting down, like that. If you stretch, keep a wide stance, and switch your arms periodically, you should be able to avoid injuring yourself if you're careful. Nothing's worse than doing a long take when you're already hurting before the director even calls action. Now that we've covered technique and injury prevention, let's move on to some pro tips that'll make your job a lot easier. You already know your work is supposed to be invisible, and if we had invisible mics, it certainly would be easier. But we don't, so you're gonna have to settle for finding the frame line and getting right up on in there without crossing it. Easier said than done, I know. The easiest way to do that is just to find the nearest monitor and then look at it while you lower the boom in. Once you cross the frame line on the monitor and you can see the boom, lift it up just a little bit. Find something behind the boom that you can see from your perspective. Use that as a reference point and just don't cross that thing and you should be fine if the camera doesn't move, of course. Or if you're working with a mixer and not just one man banding it, they might have a video feed that they can use to talk you in as well. Regardless of which of these you do, make friends with your cam op or cinematographer on a smaller shoot. They can be your greatest asset on set. If you get a chance, you should always check with them to make sure you're not in frame. They'll be able to see things you can't, like reflections or shadows that show up more on camera than they do in real life. And if you're friendly, they'll be more inclined to help you figure out a good spot in a particularly difficult shot, rather than just telling you you're in the shot and let you figure it out. Learn your focal lengths and what the common ones will look like so you can hop in there really quickly at a conservative distance if all else fails. Learn how much headroom usually goes with the wide, medium, and close-up shot, and you'll do a decent job. Finally, try to stay facing the camera. If you accidentally dip into frame, they might signal at you that you've dipped in or catch your eye and give you a look. If you're facing away from camera, you might not see them and could possibly ruin the entire take when they otherwise could have just cut around that little moment that you dipped in. Like I always say, Sound is one of the few jobs on a film set where if someone says they've seen your work, you're doing it wrong. But if you follow these steps and keep on practicing, you'll do just fine. Good luck and happy booming. I'm John Martinez, and this has been Learn Together Filmmaking.